Okay, so last night, Clay and I watched Abominable. This, I believe, is the penultimate movie in the DreamWorks marathon that is not a sequel. The last one that is a sequel is The Bad Guys, which is actually the penultimate movie of the whole ding dang thing. At least at this point, because there's going to be, I don't remember what it's called, the Kraken Mermaid movie. When does that come out? For some reason, I want to say it comes out in April. I don't think so. I think it's closer to the summer, but maybe we'll kind of like fuck with our marathon timing a little bit, or like if it comes out soon enough, I might just hold off on like my big DreamWorks ranking everything video just to make sure I can include it as well. But regardless, Abominable. Clay and I basically knew nothing about this movie except it's about an abominable snowman. I actually thought the whole thing took place in the Himalayas or like in Nepal or so, but no. It actually starts in China, and then they go from China and kind of make their way down to the Himalayas. I had asked him before the movie started, what do you think of the movie? Or it's like, what is your expectation for the movie's quality? To which he had said, yeah, I think it's going to be mid. I think it's going to be fine. And by the end of the movie, he's like, you know what? I quite enjoyed it. Like, it seemed like he wasn't like it's anything special or great. He's like, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. It is a good movie. My expectation going in is, I think it's going to be pretty mid. Like, it's going to be a movie that's fine, but I'm gonna have a soft spot for it. Like, there's gonna be basically what I thought Trolls was going to be. Like, this is gonna be fine. It's gonna be aggressively okay, but it's a musical, and I always have a soft spot for musicals. But aside from that, it's all right. I was kind of right. Um, I remember watching a Doug Walker video several years ago, and it was his review of Lilo and Stitch. And I remember his general thoughts on the film were, when it focuses on Lilo and Nani and their complex relationship and how they're dealing with being sisters, but Nani also now kind of has to be the mother, and all of Lilo's issues with fitting in and the social worker getting involved, this is one of the best movies Disney has ever produced, no question. When it's focusing on the alien stuff, it's still good. I don't like it, but it almost feels out of place, and that, like, it feels like it's two movies fighting for screen time, and one of them is phenomenal and the other is fine. I personally don't have that problem with Lilo and Stitch. I think the whole thing works. But I will say, when I was a kid, I preferred the alien stuff more, and then growing up, I actually prefer the Lilo and Nani stuff a bit more, but I still love the alien shit. Abominable, to me, I get what he's talking about now, because I felt like the movie about Yi and her family and the loss of her dad, but how, she and her dad wanted to take, it seemed like the dad wanted to take the whole ding dang family, which, sorry, I've been using the word ding dang a lot more than my previous favorite phrase, which was fuck damn. And that's because of Owl House, and Owl House is going to end this week, and oh man, I know I'm going to cry. I know there's going to be something that fucks me up. I'm excited. I am nervous, but regardless, sorry, the phrase, it reminded me, but anyways, point. The dad wanted to take a trip with the whole family, and she's been saving up money after her dad died so she can go on that trip. She's working a lot of jobs. She's not spending a lot of time at home. Her mom's getting worried about her. Her grandma's getting worried about her. Her mom asks her at one point, it's like, why don't you play the violin for us like you used to? And she's like, I sold it. And the way, like, the way the interaction is acted makes it very clear that, no, she still has it. She's just making up whatever she can say to kind of get her mom off her back. And then she sneaks out later, goes to her little hideaway on the roof, pulls out the violin and starts playing the violin. And it's very clear that, like, this is something she associates with her dad, whether it was her dad's or her dad bought it for her or her dad was her teacher. I don't remember if they ever explicitly say, I think they do say it was her dad's violin, but this is a connection between the two of them, and she almost doesn't want to play it for other people. It's almost like they're intruding on her private time with her dad. When the movie was focusing on that, I fucking loved it. I was so invested. And there's other parts later in the movie, like when they're on the full-on adventure, where it does focus on it, like some of her conversations with Jin or with Pang. was it Pang or Pang? I think it was Pang. Her two cousins. When they do talk about, like, those family aspects, I think Pang's like, yeah, like, I remember when you used to, like, play the violin with your dad. I remember he used to play, like, he was really good. I mean, I think he does kind of say, like, you know, like, I miss him, but so, like, I can only imagine how bad it must be for you. Like, what, those parts of the movie are so fucking good. I loved it, and I was so invested. The parts with Everest, which is what they call their Yeti, their abominable snowman, they're fine. I don't hate them. I'm not like, wow, here's this great movie, and then here's this movie that's just terrible. Like, no. I actually kind of like the adventure aspect of it. I think there's some pretty good slapstick involving Jin. This poor bastard just does not deserve what happens to him. Not like he dies or anything. You're like, you poor man. A lot of the interactions between Everest and Pang in particular, I think are really fun. Because, like, yeah, they're both just a couple of kids. And they both drink a lot of soda. Like, that scene's pretty fun when they're running from the blueberries. Like, Everest has this power where he can communicate with nature. And, like, that's kind of cool. And then as they get closer to the Himalayas, it gets stronger. So, you know, they're on that giant wave of was it like corn stalks or some shit? Like, that's a cool scene. That's fun. And then Yi's violin breaks. And then, excuse me, Everest uses his hair to, like, fix the violin. So now when she plays her violin, she can also control nature. Like, okay. Like, there's some cool, interesting shit here still. I don't think this is a bad movie by any stretch. I think I would say it's a bit more than just kind of mid. To me, it's a B+ kind of movie. There's some fucking A-grade material, arguably some S-tier material. So I was like, wow, this part is like, this shit is really interesting. The bulk of the movie, though, the Everest stuff, I like it. I don't love it. Though I will say, the antagonists are really interesting and kind of fun to me. So, I don't remember his name, but I actually don't remember either of their names. But it's like the old guy who's like, I was this big adventurer, you know, I had the Yeti, I want the Yeti back so I could show the world that I'm not crazy. Something about his design, he just looks like a giant owl, and I thought it was fucking hilarious. And the second in command, I guess, is a zoologist. Like, she's this aggressively British zoologist with this massive overbite. I remember looking at Clay at some point. I was like, okay, Clay, true or false? She has a bigger overbite than the bunny from Rise of the Guardians. Like, it was just really distracting to me for some reason. And then there's a part later in the movie where it turns out that, no, she's not a zoologist, she's a fucking poacher. And then this is all a big act. I was like, oh, a twist villain. A twist villain? We haven't had a lot of those in DreamWorks, or at least I haven't really noticed. Like, there was Russell Brand back in Trolls, but even then, he's not the main villain. I mean, I don't think you would say it. Is it considered a twist that Ramses becomes a villain? I mean, you can maybe argue that, but it's essentially like he is very clearly the antagonist of the second half of the movie. Okay, Megamind. Megamind is definitely a twist villain. B-movie doesn't really have a villain. The How to Train Your Dragon movies have very clear antagonists, except the first one, which is kind of weird with how it does its villain, or almost lack thereof. The Kung Fu Panda movies are very clear about their villains. Fairy Godmother, kinda. She's not really a twist. It's a twist on the idea of a fairy godmother, but she's very quickly established as the villain. Same with Rumple, Charming, Farquaad. He huffed and he puffed and he signed the eviction notice. I fucking love the first Shrek movie. Puss in Boots. Humpty Dumpty, that's definitely a twist villain. I don't want to go through DreamWorks' entire marathon, I say, as I've basically gone through a lot of it in my head. But regardless, it's like, there's a decent amount, but it's not like late Disney, I guess current era Disney and Pixar, where it seems like every movie either has a twist villain or no villain, which is, it's not inherently a bad thing. I love a good villain. Like, what I want, this is something I actually wrote in one of my stories, is a twist villain who does not change. For example, look at Hans from Frozen. This is a character who acts a certain way the entire movie, And once they are revealed as the villain, their entire demeanor changes. Like the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. You're like, this is now a different character. Same with someone like Bellwether. Same with Mindslaver in Incredibles 2. Like, I actually don't remember the character's name. So, that's not me just trying to be like, let me not spoil. Like, no, I don't fucking remember. What I want to see is a character. You can argue Coco kind of does this with its villain, but a character who, once you find out that they are the villain, they don't change the way they act. The way they talk is the same, the shit they say is the same, the way they act, their relationship with the main characters is the same. You just look at them differently. And when you kind of look at the earlier parts of the movie or the book or whatever it is, you're like, oh, I'm looking at everything they did in a different way. It's like, but the character has never actually changed. I love that idea, and I did write that with a character. I guess to not go super into spoilers, but because like the things never come out, and I would love it to. Essentially, a character who really likes fighting is revealed to be a serial killer later. Their relationship with the other main characters does not change because they're still like, yeah, you guys are my friends. I enjoy interacting with you. I love hanging out with you guys. You guys are the best. But yeah, like, I've always loved fighting shit. I've never hid that. I would love to be able to fight you guys later, and now we're gonna have the chance to do so. Now you know what I'm all about. Nothing between us changes, except that, we're gonna have to fight to the death. But hey, I mean, what's a little blood between friends? Like, I love that kind of shit, and I've seen so many twist villains in, like I said, modern Disney and modern Pixar that I'm kind of sick of it. But I will say with this movie, it didn't make me roll my eyes. I think because it's not something DreamWorks was just doing movie after movie after movie. Like, this is also just kind of funny the way it was handled. It wasn't like super hilarious or anything, but I was like, oh, okay, this character is just completely unhinged. All right, I kind of dig this. So, yeah, I feel like I would stand by what I said earlier. This is a B+ movie with some genuine A or S tier material. I think if they had focused, if this was a movie just about the family, I think I would have absolutely loved it. It probably would have been one of my favorites. But the movie I actually got, I don't hate by any means. It's good shit. It's solid. Like I said, Bad Guys is the last movie currently that is not based on any property, or, I mean, it might be based on something, but it's not a sequel to anything. Hopefully that one will be just as good, if not better.